Picture a wind-swept plain where grass hisses like the sea and hoofbeats echo across a continent. No big cats, no wolves, and no bears stalk these lands, only strange hoofed mammals grazing. From about 62 million to roughly 3 million years ago, South America lived in isolation. In that time, evolution took a wild detour and crowned a new kind of apex predator. Here, the Phorusrhacos terror birds rose to rule the open plains and shadowed forests. They were true birds, descended from flyers, but their wings had shrunk to useless paddles. Their legs became spring-loaded pistons, built for speed and sudden, explosive movement. A tall adult could meet your gaze from the height of a basketball rim, towering over most. The largest forms rivaled a human in mass, their deep, hooked beaks radiating raw power. One glance at a fossil skull, enough to make even seasoned researchers stop in silence. I like to start their story from the ground beneath their feet, because rocks set the stage. Terror birds rose soon after the dinosaur-killing asteroid, in ecosystems still rebuilding themselves. They shared the land with hoofed no-tungulates, camel-like lithopterns, and armored glyptodont. None of these mammals had ever faced a cat, and the absence of such predators left a void. Opportunity rushed in, and the birds took it with precision, speed, and adaptability. Their skeletons read like a detective story: long legs, reinforced pelvis, flexible S-shaped neck. The skull was built like a chisel, designed to deliver rapid vertical strikes to subdue prey. They didn't clamp like crocodiles, they hammered, biting and releasing in quick succession. Trackways suggest some species sprinted over open ground like Olympic middle-distance runners. Others, shorter and stockier, preferred forests, picking through leaf litter for smaller prey. In both worlds, they moved with the confidence of hunters who feared little in return. Isolation allowed dozens of species to diversify across size, habitat, and hunting style. Small, dog-sized solopterines haunted the brush. Mid-sized hunters patrolled the grasslands. A handful of giants dominated the horizon, their silhouettes cutting across the tall grass. Think of modern Cermus alert, curious, ready to sprint, but scaled up 2 or 3 times. Museum skulls of Andalgalornis reveal thickened bones that resisted bending under force. This shows their heads were tuned for straight-on pecking, not violent sideways shaking. That means they likely hammered prey with sequenced blows, breaking it into swallowable pieces. Neck reconstructions reveal a whip of muscle and ligament channeling force to the beak. Their toes bore broad claws for traction, built for balance and speed rather than slashing. Stand with me at a fossil site in Patagonia, where wind drives dust over red rock beds. A student uncovers a massive toe bone, another maps scattered limb fragments nearby. We debate whether a nearby tooth belongs to a fox-sized predator or a scavenging opossum. Piece by piece, the bird emerges not a monster, but a specialist shaped by its environment. In the Eocene and Oligocene, warm forests shifted toward drier grasslands, creating new hunting grounds. Terror birds radiated into that open space like sprinters discovering a fresh, endless track. Names from the rock layers read like a roll call: Phorusrhacos, Mesembryornis, and Kalinkin. Kalinkin's skull alone nearly spans a backpack, hooked and vaulted for dispatching prey. Small solopterines likely hunted like roadrunners, darting, leaping, and raiding nests. Bone stiffness and stride length hint at speeds rivaling emus or ostriches over open terrain, but their heavy heads pulled their balance forward, shaping how they turned or stopped. Picture a Miocene dawn, a juvenile no-tungulate flees, the bird pacing it in silence. A sudden downward snap stuns the prey. The bird steps back, avoiding a defensive kick. Their diet was opportunistic, small enough to subdue alive, or scavenged if chance allowed. Adults wore coarse, hair-like plumage to shed heat on long, hot runs across the plains. Some may have sported crests, flashing them at rivals or during courtship near water holes. Over millions of seasons, storms buried trackways, floods scattered bones, and ash-sealed moments. What survives is a record written in fragments enough to glimpse how birds once ruled the ground. If the bones read like field notes, the skulls read like an instruction manual in hard calcium. CT scans of Andalgalornis show a beak reinforced for vertical blows, weaker against twisting forces. That structure favors a rapid sequence of pecks over the bulldog grip used by some predators. Finite element models map stress along the midline during impacts, but red zones under side pulls. In simple terms, these birds likely stabbed, stunned, and stepped back, repeating until prey gave in. Neck vertebrae with high neural spines and thick muscle scars confirm the vertical strike strategy. A broad, stable pelvis anchored their power, rooting each blow deep into the legs and ground. Feeding trials with sirmas, herons, and secretary birds show precision beats brute force in strikes. That elegant efficiency let terror birds adapt to habitats from pampas to coastal dunes with shrubs. Many fossils come from Argentina and Uruguay, but their range covered much of South America. One lineage, Titanis, even crossed into North America late in their history during a migration wave. Before the land bridge formed, South America's food webs were run on uniquely homegrown rules. Lepidopterans and no ungulates grazed. Giant armadillo-kin roamed. Marsupials filled predator roles. A fast, sharp-beaked bird fit as a terrestrial hawk scaled up, intercepting prey and avoiding harm. I learned that lesson on a hot day near Trelew when our truck sank axle deep in drifting sand. Lucia, our lead paleontologist, walked beside me, telling how she nearly left science after setbacks. She stayed because a teacher once put a fossil toe bone in her hand and said, "You touch motion." That line carried us to a low hill where bones lay scattered like punctuation in ancient sentences. Among them was a jaw fragment with a vertical beak edge and base of a narial opening for Phorusrhacos. Manny, our wildlife artist, sketched it while we measured, his line steady despite battered gear. When people ask if terror birds were mindless killers, I think of Manny's poised, cautious drawing. Predators that injure themselves don't survive long. Restraint was part of the design for these birds. The hatchet beak held layers of strategy, hook to tear, edge to slice, base to absorb impact. Zooming out, climate shifts shaped their choices. Wet spales grew forests, dry spales spread grass. Forests let smaller species ambush, open land favored taller, faster runners with long sight lines. Rivers moved, dunes marched, and bird populations tracked changing patches like pieces on a board. Competition came from other terror birds and predatory mammals, from sparsodonts to early cats. Fossil bones show V-shaped bite marks from mammals and neat punctures likely left by a beak strike. Together these signs reveal a mixed economy of risk, competition, and opportunity in their world. Youngsters probably learned on foot beside a parent, much like modern sirmas guide their chicks. They likely saw demonstrations, a careful approach, a quick strike, a retreat, then shared scraps. Such moments suggest social learning. No pack hunts, but skill taught by example and repetition. To see that nuance, drop the monster image and meet the bird as a specialist in its craft. It's the difference between a hammer swinging wildly and a carpenter placing each strike with care. Precision gave terror birds a long-lived advantage, but nothing in nature lasts unchanged forever. As the Isthmus of Panama rose, species crossed both ways, and food webs rewired completely. Titanis wall Erie reached the southern United States, striding among horses, camels, and large dogs. It thrived for a time before fading from the fossil record, its era of dominance closing for good. Extinction stories tempt us to pick a single villain, but real ecosystems fade for several reasons at once. In the late Miocene and Pliocene, climates cooled and dried. Rivers cut new paths, and habitat shifted. Placental carnivores, cats and dogs among them, arrived over the emerging land bridge with new competition. Early canids coursed the open ground in packs. Cats stalked cover and pounced with a holding bite. Both could clamp and hold prey, a tactic that terror birds avoided in favor of strike and release. Prey communities changed as northern herbivores mixed with southern lineages, and some natives dwindled. In that churn, the large specialized birds thinned out, many vanishing from the rocks by the Pliocene. The North American Titanis leaves its last clear traces near the dawn of the Pleistocene epoch. Did cats beat the birds? Sometimes competition is direct, but often it is more indirect and subtle. If new predators push prey into thick cover or night activity, a daytime sprinter pays a hidden tax. Add the risk from pack harassment, and the survival equation tilts away from the lone runner. Fossils record presence, not absence, and gaps may reflect erosion as much as extinction itself. The record shows a long dominance followed by a gradual taper, not a sudden catastrophic fall. That longevity is extraordinary. Tens of millions of years from ancestors that once soared in skies. Students often ask whether terror birds could survive today, and parts of their design still do. Watch a sirima sprint after a lizard, slam it, toss it, and swallow an echo of a vanished style. But the modern world is full of fences, roads, and dogs, and big land predators rarely thrive. Instead of wishing them back, we learn from them. Lucia taught me humility hidden in the bones. On our last field evening, she laid out the day's finds: a toe bone, narrow rim, and 2 vertebrae. Manny showed 3 sketches like a flip book: stillness in dust, a measuring step, a precise strike. We were tired, sunburned, and bitten, yet the camp felt peaceful, as if the plain itself had nodded. A fossil may not give feathers or colors or voice, but it will give posture, the grammar of intent. From that grammar, we can write stories close to the data yet alive with movement and meaning. Some massive bones once assigned to terror birds are now linked to other giant birds with new diets. Biomechanics refines their toolkit: necks storing elastic energy, skulls built for sagittal precision, legs tuned for steady pursuit, not short ambush bursts, emerge clearly from scan and measurement. Each mechanism strips away myth and replaces it with a working part that tells of specialization. Specialists are glorious until the world asks a new question their design cannot easily answer. When the land bridge tightened, seas fell, and climate swung, the question changed abruptly. Fast legs and a hatchet beak still worked, but not everywhere and not often enough to be safe. Parents guarding chicks on open plains with new predators spent more time watching than hunting. That trade-off echoed through generations, shrinking the lineage's reach and resilience. By the early Ice Age, the bird that once ruled pampas with patience and speed was gone. What remains are tracks, bones, and small living hints: the sirima, the heron's measured strike. These remind us the script was real, not myth, and the style once ruled real landscapes. Awe is not the opposite of accuracy, it is the reward for paying careful attention to the truth. Terror birds need no extra teeth or roars. They need us to see what they were built to do. South America gave them time and space. The world changed. They adapted as long as they could. Their story carries a familiar note. Every species thrives in landscapes shaped by accidents and bridges. What we choose is how carefully we watch while it is our turn to run on this changing stage. If we honor that lesson, we honor them, turning data into care, and care into wiser choices for lands.